This video is actually starting off a day before the video that I record. I am making a herb cold process soap bar, and whenever you make a cold process soap bar, it has to just cure in the molds for 24 to 48 hours before cutting them. So on this morning, I am getting my soap going by adding all of my fats together. When you're making cold process soap, it's really important to get your measurements very accurate. And so that's why I'm using a kitchen digital scale here to get all of my oils measured. And then I'm putting them into a makeshift double boiler, and we'll melt those together on the stove. And then once they are all melted, they'll have to cool back down to 120 degrees before I can add in the lye and water. So before I get out my lye and water, I am cleaning up my ingredients and getting my safety gear on. Lye is one of those ingredients that goes in all soap bars, and it's one that you have to be careful with. Once it is mixed together with all of the fats and oils, it's no longer a dangerous product. But whenever you are mixing it with the water and then again into the oil, if it gets on your skin, it can burn. That's why you see me wearing the long rubber gloves and also the safety goggles. Now, after I get the lye mixed, that also has to cool back down because lye does naturally heat up whenever it is mixed with a liquid. So I let that cool as well. And once the oil and the lye were both cooled back down to that 120 degrees, I mixed them together. All right, so then I added in a bunch of herbs into this soap bar and then putting it into the mold. And I'll just let this sit overnight, and you'll see tomorrow when I cut into these bars. This made a really beautiful soap bar. All right, so this is the next morning, and I'm actually up before most of the kids. This has not happened very often. The baby's up. He's always up when I'm up because he's always in my bed by morning. And so he's up. My husband's holding him. And so I'm just going to do a couple of things before I even get ready today because we are going to be having pumpkin spice waffles for breakfast. And so I have to cook a pumpkin, and I'm doing that in my Instant Pot. Now, ideally, I would have done this last night, but before I went to bed, I even thought about I'm just too tired. I didn't want to do it. And so I am just going to cook it in the Instant Pot. It only takes about 20 minutes in the Instant Pot. So I'm going to have that going now. And then I'm also beating my sourdough starter just to have that ready for if I use it all today or just for the week. I like to feed that in the morning just so it's nice and bubbly and ready for if I need it. I don't measure anymore when I feed my sourdough starter. I've been doing it for so long. I just kind of mix it together, and I know the amounts are kind of like the consistency it should be. And so that's just what I do. Now I'm also defrosting some meat. Last night I was at my parents' house, so I went into my sister's freezer because she has all of her meat there, and I got a bunch of chicken from her, but I did put it in the refrigerator last night, but it's not fully defrosted, so I'm just putting that in some water because I'll be using that later on for lunch. All right, so my soap bar is ready to be cut, so I'm just taking it out of the mold, and I'm going to cut them into soap bars. Now these will still have to cure for a few weeks before we can use them, but at this point they are ready to be cut, and then I will put them in my spot where I cure them, and then we'll be able to enjoy them in a few weeks. All right, so I headed into my room. I got myself ready for the day. I'm braiding my hair. I am horrible at hair. I've told you guys that before, and I cannot even braid it very well myself, just a normal braid like this. I like to do this to keep my hair out of my face, and so when my daughter woke up, I actually had her re-braid it because she can do it way better than I can do to myself. So if you see it looking better throughout the day, that's because my daughter did it for me. Now, I don't really have too much of a morning routine. I keep things pretty simple. I don't do much on the way of skincare or makeup, really. I am using a vitamin C serum that I made. I have that recipe on my blog, and it is, I don't know, I really like it. I've been using it for a couple of weeks now, and it makes my skin feel really soft. And so I actually put that on right before I brush my teeth, and then I put my makeup on just right over it. So anyway, that's what I'm doing this morning, getting myself ready, doing a little bit of makeup. Like I said, I don't really do much, but I do like being put together. It makes me feel more productive throughout the day if I actually get dressed, fix my hair, put a little bit of makeup on, and just have myself put together for the day. All right, so after I get dressed and ready, the next thing I do is I always make my bed. That's another thing that just makes me start off the day right. That's typically the first thing that I do in the morning. Now this morning, like I said, I went into the kitchen and did a few things, but I don't like going without a made bed. We go in and out of our room a lot throughout the day, and I have always had the door open, and I don't want to go by and see my bed unmade. So that's always something that I do, even though it doesn't really matter. But for me, it's just what I like to do. So, all right, into the kitchen, getting my apron on. I am putting away some dishes and things that we had out the day before. We keep all of our water bottles always out here on this sunroom table because I don't like them like clogging up my counter space inside, and I feel like they're out constantly all summer long, and so we wash them and let them dry outside. And now I'm getting some pictures of my herb soap bars. This is a recipe for my blog, and I love taking all of my pictures out in my sunroom. It just has the best natural lighting for photos, and so I am outside getting a few pictures, and this is the way that I cure my soap. I just put them in a 9x13 pan. You just need them to not be touching each other, and then I'll put it in a dark closet in my bathroom. All right, so after getting the soap in my curing place, I am heading into the kitchen to make breakfast. This morning we are having pumpkin spiced waffles. It's officially fall like weather around here. I know it won't last. I shouldn't say official because it's not official. We have had several, days in a row, maybe even a week or so of just really nice, cool weather. And so it has me thinking fall. I know we'll still get some warmer days because that's how it always is here in the Midwest. But it made me want to make pumpkin spice waffles. So I'm actually getting all of my batter put together here, mixing together some flour and some milk, vanilla, a little bit of sugar. My pumpkin is still there in my Instapot. And I will say that putting it and doing it in my Instapot was not my favorite way to do a pumpkin. Typically, I just roast it in the oven, like cut it in half and remove the seeds and then bake it, and then I can take the flesh out. But because I didn't do it the day before and I knew we wanted this for breakfast this morning, I thought that I could just do it in my Instapot fast. And I don't know, I did not like the way that it turned out. I mean, the pumpkin puree tasted just fine. It was the way whenever it came out, it was like extremely like mushy. Maybe I just overcooked it and it all like fell apart, and it was extremely hard to separate the good part of the pumpkin and the bad part and to get all the seeds out because of the way that it like fell apart. And so I don't know, you can see here how bad it looks. I guess I just overcooked it. I followed a tutorial. I Googled this and I followed a tutorial on how to do it, but I don't know, maybe my pumpkin was smaller. But so anyway, sifted through it the best that I could. And then I just let it sit for a minute because it was so hot. I couldn't even touch it, which was making it even hotter. So I decided to do a few dishes. You guys know that I love to just clean as I go. That's the way that I find dishes to be the easiest and the most manageable, especially whenever you're cooking often in your kitchen. And so I'm always just kind of cleaning as I go. And I do clean out my Instapot a little bit here, but I'm not fully putting it away because I will be using it again later on. So I'm just kind of wiping it down and I'm going to get it out of the way, but I will be using that later on in this video, you'll see. So not even going to fully clean that and put that away. So I am putting the pumpkin into my blender. I'm adding a little bit of water and blending it up to make a pumpkin puree, which I'll be using in my waffles. And then I'm also going to be using some of this a little bit later on because we didn't need all of it for the waffles. Now, also in the waffles, obviously, I did add a bunch of cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg. We don't have any pumpkin pie spice yet. I need to go to the store and get some, but obviously it's super easy to make with just some ginger, nutmeg, and cinnamon. Ideally, I would have put allspice in there, but I didn't have any. All right, so I'm plugging in my waffle iron. I am like a Grinch about the waffle iron. I hate making waffles. My kids and my husband love waffles. I would always prefer to make pancakes just because, I mean, I love waffles too. They're really, really good. It's just a mess. Like cleaning a waffle iron when you're done making waffles is way harder than just cleaning and wiping out my cast iron skillet when I make pancakes. I always overfill my waffles no matter what, every time. And so it like spews out the side and like leaks onto the counter and goes on the edges of the waffle iron. I don't know, I'm not a fan of cleaning it. So after they ask for them, like lots of times I'll like make them maybe once every couple of months because it's just, I don't know. I'm lazy, I guess. I don't like cleaning the waffle iron, but they were absolutely delicious. They were so good. And for this recipe, I just Googled a pumpkin recipe and just clicked on one. And then as always, I made a few adjustments just depending on the things that I had, but it's just a very typical pumpkin spice waffle. All right, so to serve these, I am just topping them with a bunch of butter and maple syrup because, you know, that's the way waffles are the best. My kids all wanted a piece of butter in every single square. And I was like, I'm not doing that, but I will put these on here hot and you guys can like move them all around. It'll melt on there. But we love our butter on here. I'm a firm believer in fat. Good healthy fats being a good thing and being very, very crucial for diets, especially for young kids with developing brains. And so we do not go shy on the amount of butter and fats that we add, you know, into our meals. And then obviously I served it with some raw milk. And so that was our breakfast. Now after breakfast here, I am doing a kitchen cleanup. As always, I love to do dishes right after. Now, I know I could leave these or throw them in my dishwasher, but you know how I am not a fan of my dishwasher. I just love to hand wash. I find it very easy. I get a lot of questions about the spray bottle I use there. This is just a homemade dish soap. I actually have several homemade dish soaps and also cleaners and things on my blog. I actually have an entire cleaning course, like how to make all of your own natural cleaners and like laundry soaps and all that kind of thing. So I'll link that course below because I know a lot of you guys are interested and you guys ask a lot. But for this particular dish soap that I'm using here and that you see me use in all of my videos, it's just a diluted Castile soap. And then I typically add in some type of citrus essential oil. I think this one has lemon in it, maybe wild orange. I'm not exactly sure. It's just very easy to make. It works well. And that's what we use to wash our dishes. I also will use this on my countertops. I also use an all-purpose spray when I'm wiping down my countertops and tables and whatnot. And that's just made with diluted vinegar and also some of that lemon essential oil. All right, so I am drying and putting away some dishes. I don't like messes or things out on my countertops. And so pretty much right when dishes are done, I will dry all the bigger things that I can put away. Now, obviously, if it can go in the dish drainer and stay in there, that's fine. But like the bigger things need to be washed and put off my countertop. So that's what I'm doing now. There I am using my spray bottle and wiping down all of my countertops with that Castile soap and water and a little bit of citrus essential oil. So now that my baby is eating, the high chair is like another thing that has to be cleaned after every meal. It gets so messy. I almost always take his little insert outside and just shake it out because there's always so much food in it that I don't know. Every once in a while I'll wash this cover and it comes out like perfectly clean, but I don't wash it every time because it gets dirty, you know, every single meal. So there's no reason to wash it every time, but every couple of weeks I will wash that. But shaking it outside and getting all that off and then just wiping down his tray is what I do. All right, so it is time for my littlest baby's nap, and I still nurse him before every nap time. He still nurses very often, anytime I'm sitting down, I feel like that's when he wants to nurse. So I'm nursing him, and I will lay him down, and then I'm going to head out to the sunroom to clean up. So I finished those soap pictures earlier, but I never got around to like cleaning up that area. When I take pictures, I will get out a lot of different little bowls and ramekins and herbs and things to make the pictures look pretty. And so it's a lot of like little props and things. And when I do this, a lot of those little like herbs and flowers, floral things that I use spilled on the floor and also on the table. So I am wiping down my table and then just kind of picking up a few toys here in the sunroom. And I'm going to vacuum this floor too. This sunroom, oh man, we love it. When we move, this is like, I will miss this sunroom more than anything. It is such a fun room to have in your house, especially during like the fall and spring when the weather is perfect and you can just leave that door open. It just makes our house even bigger. To count as like square footage onto your house because we use it totally as living space. We spend so much time out here, but because of that, it does get dirty. And so cleaning it, vacuuming it, obviously it's partially outside, and so I have to keep it clean to keep bugs away. All right, guys, I'm gonna take a quick moment from this video to thank today's sponsor, Element. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink that has everything you need and nothing you don't. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs. It is perfectly suited for those who are following a keto or low carb or even a paleo diet because it is sugar-free, it has no coloring, no artificial ingredients, it's gluten-free, and it has no fillers. When you sweat, the primary electrolyte lost is sodium, and when sodium is not replaced, it's common to experience muscle cramps and fatigue. Element can help prevent and relieve headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, sleepiness, and other common symptoms of electrolyte deficiencies. Right now, Element is offering a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 sample packets with any order, and that is a great way to try all the different flavors or even share it with a friend. To get this deal, you can use the link down in my description box below or go to drinkelement.com/ouroilyhouse. That's DRINKLMNT.com/ouroilyhouse. All right, so now I am getting started with lunch. I have a bunch of chicken drumsticks here from my sister. If you're interested in buying her meat at all, I will link her website down below. She does ship, and so if you want some good quality chicken, I will link her website down below. For these chicken drumsticks, I am just drizzling them in some avocado oil and then just adding some seasonings. This is a quick meal for me, like making chicken, just baking it, even though it's not anything like super exciting. It's just easy. It's easy to prepare. I always say that baking a whole chicken or, chicken drumsticks or thighs or whatever is just as easy as throwing a frozen pizza into the oven. I'm just adding some seasonings, toss it in, and then I don't have to think about it. I am dotting it with some butter, even with that oil. I don't know. I just love the way that butter tastes on chicken. So adding a little bit of that in, and now I'm just throwing it in the oven to bake. So after I put that in the oven, I was trying to think of what side to go with this. We pretty much always make something with potatoes. They're just filling. Everybody loves potatoes. And I didn't really want to do baked potatoes. A lot of times when I make chicken, I do sweet potatoes. All my kids love sweet potatoes. But I decided to make a scallop potato. And so I haven't done this in a long time. I have done it in the past. It's been a while. And it's actually so easy. And I thought they were so good. Not all of my kids loved it. They're weird. Like, really good, like cheesy things. Sometimes I don't love. I'm like, what is like macaroni and cheese? I don't love that. I'm like, you guys are weird kids. But anyway, I love them. I mean, they all ate them. No one complained. I asked them like, oh, what do you guys think of the potatoes? They're all right. Like no one loved them. So, I mean, I will be making them again. But these were so easy. Again, I just kind of followed a recipe, made a few minor adjustments. One thing that I did was you make the sauce in a big pan and then you add in your potatoes and onions. And then the recipe said to transfer it to a 9x13 pan. But because I was using a Dutch oven, I didn't see any reason of why I needed to transfer them because a Dutch oven can go straight into the oven. So I did that and they turned out great. So saved me a dish and they still cooked through really well. So anyway, very simple lunch of chicken drumsticks and some scallop potatoes. I also served this with some sauerkraut. We need to make some more sauerkraut around here. We have some store-bought corn right now. None of my kids like it. They keep saying, Mom, make sauerkraut, make sauerkraut. And I don't know why. I feel like just every time I go to the store, I forget to get cabbage. But I need to make another batch, but that still means we won't have any sauerkraut for a few months because, or not a few months, few weeks. And I usually ferment it for like 4-ish weeks on the counter. So a good month though. All right, so after lunch for dessert, I don't typically make dessert after every lunch, but I am making a pumpkin milkshake. I have a friend from high school that made this beautiful like fall book with all kinds of activities for kids. It has a lot of fun recipes in it. It has Bible verses. It's like really, really well done. And she gave it to me and I printed it all off. And so we are like slowly going through all the different things in this book. And so one of the things she had in here was a pumpkin milkshake. And oh man, it was so good. So I made this with that leftover pumpkin puree that we didn't finish up with our waffles. It was just, her recipe did call for frozen milk, but I did not look at the recipe before I started it, so I didn't have frozen milk. So I just used regular milk. It has cream in it, cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, vanilla, and then it had ice in it, but I think I added a little bit more. I used frozen bananas. It was delicious. Everybody loved it, and I love it because it has, pumpkin in it. So then after lunch this afternoon, we did a few of the crafts out of my friend's little book here. My daughter did some coloring, and then they made a pumpkin turkey. I'm going to link this for you guys below. She actually has it listed on Etsy. And I really think a lot of you moms would love this. It had different activities and things when you go to the apple orchard with like apple crafts and a Bible verse that relates to it, and then apple recipes, and then the same for the pumpkin patch. Obviously, we're a little bit going out of order here, doing a pumpkin turkey when it's not Thanksgiving time, but that was just what we did because we already had little pumpkins, and that was the one my daughter has. She actually has it all in a binder, and she's been doing all the different activities in it throughout the day. So she did the little fall scavenger hunt in it. Anyway, it's a super cute little book. My friend did so well with it. The pictures in it are just gorgeous. All the recipes we tried so far have been really good. We did a pumpkin spice popcorn too the day after this one. After lunch, we did have some leftover chicken, and so I am just taking that chicken off of the bone, and then I am putting the bones into my Instant Pot to make some broth. So because I have some leftover chicken and we're going to have broth, I'm going to make a big pot of chicken noodle soup for dinner. So for my bone broth, I just add all the bones with a little bit of water and some spices. I usually like to put a bay leaf in there, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and just put it in my Instant Pot and put it on the soup cycle, and just let that go. That'll make some really nutritious, nice bone broth. So now I'm cutting up some veggies for my soup. I'm doing some carrots, and then we had a couple red peppers and a red onion in the refrigerator in a little container. So I'm cutting those up. Typically I would use a white onion, not that it really matters, but I figured I would just use what we already had. I just set all the soup making things to the side because my broth is still going, but I am getting some pumpkin muffins going too. I'm telling you guys, I love pumpkin everything. And once it's time to break out the pumpkin, I won't be stopping. So like you're gonna see so many pumpkin spice everything here in the next couple of months. We are making pumpkin spice muffins because it is a soccer practice night. And so that means we'll be eating our soup a little bit earlier than our normal dinner. And then we have to head to the fields and have soccer practice. And by the time soccer practice is over, everyone's going to be hungry again. But whenever we get home, it's bedtime. So I like to pack some type of muffin or snack or fruit or I don't know, something for them to eat on the way home. So when we get home, they can still be ready for bed. So I'm doing a pumpkin muffin. I used maple syrup in this instead of sugar. I added in some oats just to make them really filling. Now these could have chocolate chips in them. I didn't do that. I just made them without them and they were still really, really good. So again, just followed a recipe I found on Google and then substituted a few things to make them with the ingredients that I had and that I wanted to add into my recipe. All right, so I am cleaning up the kitchen again, and while my muffins are baking, I always love to find those little pockets of times. You know, whenever muffins are baking, I can quickly get all of the dishes done that I use to make the muffins. All right, so while the muffins were in the oven, I tend it to my soup. My favorite thing to do anytime I'm making a soup is to always start off by searing or sauteing the vegetables. It's an extra step, but it makes it so good. So adding some butter to my Dutch oven and just putting in some garlic and then putting in the vegetables to really lock in that flavor. I feel like it just makes the dish so much better. So I'll let that kind of saute a little bit before I add in the chicken and the broth, and then later on I'll add in the noodles. All right, my muffins are done, so I'm just gonna put them on a plate here to let them cool. And I am making my matcha tea. I have gotten into the habit of making this every afternoon, and now I just can't not have it. It's so good. I make it differently. Sometimes I make it hot, sometimes cold. Sometimes I add a blueberry syrup to the bottom of it, which I've linked that recipe before. I'll link it again down in my description box. But today I'm just doing milk, a little bit of maple syrup and vanilla, and the matcha. All right, so my bone broth is done. Straining the bones off and just putting the broth straight into my soup, my Dutch oven here, and adding in some egg noodles, and then I'll add in that leftover chicken that we had from lunch. I brought this to a boil and then lowered it down and let it simmer for about an hour and added in a bunch of different spices, and that was dinner. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. We get out a new video every single week.